is it? Is it real? And what is it doing there?
Now they're speaking out, saying there are UFOs in U.S. airspace and they need to be taken seriously.
A family in Highland, Michigan believes their house is actually haunted and thinks something is harming their little girl. They're unidentified in U.S. airspace.
The U.S. Navy has finally acknowledged that videos appearing to show UFOs flying through the air are real.
I'm Todd Bates. I've been investigating the paranormal for years, yet still have no definite answers. Join me on this mysterious journey as we discuss all things paranormal, right down to the little gnomes. Why do millions experience these mysterious phenomenon, yet we have no proof? Welcome to Haunted Voices Radio, where I try and gather the pieces that may one day form yet another puzzle.
And a good evening, one and all. Welcome, Haunted Voices Live, right here, WLTK-DB.com. That's where you want to go to watch. You can also chat over there. Those of you watching on all of these amazing social media places, welcome. We put out to a lot of them. I don't even remember what they are anymore, Nicole. It's just crazy. How you been?
They just keep doing good. It's been a week. But I'm here doing great. What about you?
Hanging in there. Doing good. We had an amazing lineup tonight. My goodness, so many great guests, great shows. Started at 6 p.m. with Twilight Tonight, all the way up to Twisted Ascensions. It just got over. You guys need to check out that show. They poured their hearts out on that show tonight. It was amazing.
Love it.
Be sure check out the replay. Twisted Ascensions, Caden and Alyssa Mass. It was outstanding. All the shows were amazing tonight. I'm happy to be here. My goodness, it's already January freaking 20th. Where'd the month go?
Can you believe that? I mean, remember when we were kids? Time went by so slow. What's going on now? What's happening?
I'm lost.
So am I.
I'm just lost. But it's been a productive year. I mean, it's so far, it's been great. We've got some new shows for you folks. I want to get just a few announcements out here, and we've got an amazing guest coming up here this evening. You're going to love this.
Yes, we do.
Root Cause Therapy coming up with Deidre Sanford. Hang in there. Now, the newest one's going to be Beyond the Grave with Benjamin Young and Ashley Marino. And this is going to be airing Monday nights at 7 p.m.
Oh,
They're taking
great.
that slot, and it's a paranormal-based show, of course, ghost-based show. And then we've got Spirits Are Talking with Lisa Silverman. That's going to be airing Tuesday, February 7th at 9 p.m. Central. That's coming on board February 7th. They're coming in production. Soul and Synergy show debuted this morning. Be sure and check out the replay of that as well, folks. That was an awesome show. They had a panel on there. So it was just,
I love panels. Love
it was
them.
an amazing day of shows here at the station. So thank you all very much.
Friday's
for your
packed.
support. It's just been crazy. It's been crazy. But without further ado, Nicole, we have got Miss Deidre Sanford. We're going to be talking some root cause therapy. Those of you folks that don't know what that is, you're going to find out, and you're going to leave. Yeah. Well, as I like to say, you just may screw up and learn something. It's important. Pay attention tonight. As a child, Deidre's paranormal experiences didn't make sense to her or her family. In fact, without understanding and support, daily living could often be quite scary. From growing up in the Chicago suburbs, moving northwest to Arkansas, other places in between, Deidre experienced seemingly inexplicable events wherever she lived and traveled. Deidre began to work as an energy worker 30 years ago and learned how her intuitive and psychic abilities combined with to assist others. After moving to Northwest Arkansas, she began to understand her relationship with spirits, but wouldn't begin to focus on mediumship until 12 years ago. So without further ado, my goodness, let's welcome Miss Deidre Sanford. How you doing?
Hello, I'm well. How are you guys?
TGIF.
Fantastic.
Yay.
TGIF.
is right. You got it.
My
so
goodness,
good to talk
Deidre.
with you. Finally.
I know, face to face. I can't believe it. It's great to see you, Nicole.
And you host your own show on top of this. You know, we're going to get into so many things tonight. And thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come on here. It's great to have you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for thinking of me and asking me to join you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So the beginning, I mean, you're a medium, root cause therapist. You had some paranormal experiences that we're going to get into. Of course, it's a ghost-based show. We'll throw some of those in there. What happened? Take us back to the beginning, Deidre.
Oh, gosh. I think my first real memory of something inexplicable at the time was at 7 years old in a new house. And that house creeped me out. My mom and my sister and I were watching TV in one room, and we could see into one section of the kitchen, not into the next. And we heard a glass shatter. And we all kind of looked at each other like, don't get it. Now I'm 7 years old. And I bravely got up and trudged into the kitchen, and there was a shattered glass on the kitchen floor. Nobody really ever figured out why. The kitchen counter didn't slant. And I will grant you, and we discussed this at length at the time, and I felt like Mom just wanted us to feel better about not knowing what was going on. It was summertime. The glass was a little bit sweaty. But if there's no slant to the counter, why is it jumping off and smashing on the floor? That was weird.
That is insane.
I love it.
It's crazy. I was in that house, excuse me, until I was 18. So I was there a little over 10 years. And teenagers always want to be the last one up, right? They're going to stay up late. I never wanted to be the last one up in this house. No, sir. When I was 7, I had said to Mom, do you see those people in the dining room? Yeah, they're not here to hurt us.
Oh.
I don't even remember what she said.
Wow.
But she was just
Okay.
kind of like, okay. And I didn't remember it. She reminded me of that in my early 30s when I was living in Arkansas. And I think about that sometimes, but more often I think about the creepiness of that house to me. I just never really kind of felt settled. So I would still sometimes end up being the last one up in the house. And this house was, the room that we sat in to watch TV was an addition. And then the next room in would be the kitchen. And on the back wall with all the cabinets, behind that was the front of the house. And on that back wall where all the cabinets were 2 doors, one on each side, one from the kitchen to the dining room, and one to like the hallway area from the front room down the hallway to the bedrooms. And we kept those doors closed all the time in the summer because we only had AC in the addition. And I would hate being the last one up. I'd have to remember to turn the thermostat back down. And then I'd go to that door and put my hand on it, take a deep breath, open the door, look to my left really quick. It's dark. There's nobody there. I can't see anything, but I know there's something there. And I would run down the hallway to my bedroom, close the door, jump in bed, pull the covers over my head and wait. And that was my life.
Oh, gosh.
I did that almost every night. There were a couple of times when one time I had somebody with me and we were walking on the side lot of the house. And I just knew in my bones, I knew somebody was looking out that window. And I asked this person, they're like, oh my God, I'm glad you said that. Because I would swear I just saw somebody in that window. And I thought, okay, I'm not completely crazy. Someone else has seen it too. And we'll just move on with our lives and never speak of this again. So, it's like when we have those experiences and we have no idea what to do with them, how to cope with them, or who we are, and that it's really not that unnatural to have it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Life is a little weird. It's a little bit weird.
Was the glass shattering the very first experience that your family had in that home? Or were there other situations prior to that?
If
that maybe,
yeah, I don't know. We hadn't been there that long. It was the first summer we were living in the house. And so if anything else ever came to anyone else's attention in that house, it wasn't known. Nobody really talked about it.
Did you do research
on the land
and stuff?
Yeah.
You
At
know,
this point in my life, I would be willing to do that. And honestly, Nicole, thank you, because I really hadn't thought about it. When we first
I'd
moved
be
in, there were
curious.
3 girls in the family down the street, and we got to be, friends. We hung out together quite often.
Mhm.
And the girls told us at one point in time that the man and the woman who had lived in that house, he was not a very nice neighbor. And they also told us that he had shot his dogs and buried them in the backyard. And that's why there was a little mound in the backyard.
Damn.
Oh my goodness.
We could never confirm it. Nobody else really ever said anything except these 3 girls. And you know how kids are. And
Yeah.
I think he was quite the drinker, because one of the closets in the house had all kinds of liquor bottles in it. Majority of them were empty. But
Yeah.
that was one of the things I remember doing, was clearing those bottles out. Interesting.
That would
house,
kind of tie into the glass flying out too,
wouldn't it?
in a way, if he was, you kind of put pieces together. Wow.
It's funny, you don't start looking back on some of this and tying pieces together until much later, much later. Like you just pointed out, we'll do the history in the house. Well, that's a good
Mhm.
idea.
Yeah, they
just
collect. I
curious,
think
you
you
know,
can go
why
to
not?
you can go to the clerk's office at the courthouse. I think it's called an abstract or
Yeah.
something. It's like 10 or 20 bucks, and you get
Yeah.
you just give them the address, and I think they have
That'd
all
be
the list of the
fun.
names that live there.
Yeah,
That'd be a nice little
Never
mystery
know.
for you.
Yeah.
tons of fun.
Putting the pieces together.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. I love hearing these stories. I just love hearing the origins of what
Well,
got people started. That's just fascinating. I love it.
And most of them, I don't tell very many people. Because, I've gone in different periods of my life where I've been on this path and done the psychic and the healing work, and now working on a lot more with the mediumship, been on paranormal investigations, and had some experiences. And those were really the only times that I could talk freely about this stuff. So it's interesting to be able to do that. I know I'll get some good information and feedback from you guys too.
yeah.
Good
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean, it's at a young age like that, to see spirit.
Mhm.
Did it startle you at all, or did it feel?
Creepy.
It felt creepy.
I felt watched in that house all the time.
And see, at a
And
young age, did not
yeah,
know, to process that. That's difficult.
Well, and to
and
be fair, my mom and biological father had divorced a few years prior to that. So I had a new dad. There were some things that were new and different in my life. So I was probably a little
Right.
wonky. I still am. But they would come in to check on me at night that first year. And for some reason, I had a Raggedy Ann and Andy sleeping bag that I just loved. And I would have to sleep in that sleeping bag on my bed. And mom would come in, tuck me in, good night. And they'd come to check on me before they went to bed. And they started not being able to find me. And I started sleeping in my closet in my sleeping bag.
Oh my
And now that we're
gosh.
talking about this, I hadn't thought about that in years. And I thought, well, I wonder, if that was just me being in a safe space to acclimate to this new house, or if there was something else of which I was aware that made me want to sleep in that closet. Most kids are scared of their closets.
oh, sure,
I wanted to
You're
sleep in mine.
it's a terrifying
love-
place. It's cold
Yeah.
and dark. It's terrible in there.
It wasn't very big.
But with a Raggedy Ann sleeping bag, I'd feel safe.
Wow. Sleeping bag.
Gotta love
Raggedy-
Raggedy Ann. Oh,
Remember the alarm clock?
that's so cute, though. I love it.
So the mediumship started at a young age, basically, because you're seeing spirit at a young age, but you weren't really understanding. I mean, a child's mind is so open. It's just
Right.
so
Mhm.
open to everything. And then when we get older, I think it closes. We get conditioned and complacent and all this other jazz and just become clouded. So growing up that way, how did it develop into your skills?
I moved to Northwest Arkansas in 2005. So I was in my early 30s. And I rented a house. Well, actually, I had gone to visit my parents in Northwest Arkansas before I moved there. And every time I was in Arkansas, I would have some sort of an experience. And I blame it on the unmined quartz crystal in the ground. because, you know, it just magnifies everything.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least
Absolutely.
that's
Yep. Yep.
what made me comfortable with it at the time. We went to Eureka Springs and spent the day cruising around Eureka Springs, and they took me to lunch at the Crescent Hotel.
I want to go
Thank
there
you.
so bad. It's on
Oh,
my
it's so
list. It
fun.
is, folks. It is.
And I didn't really know that much about it. So I'm eating lunch with my folks, and I keep hearing tittering, giggling, like young girls' voices. And I said something to my mom, and she kept asking me questions like, I don't know, but it's coming from the opposite side of the dining room on the far wall. And I didn't want to really talk about it much more because I didn't understand.
Sure.
So we asked the server, I think it was my mother actually, who said to the server, hey, and the server said, oh, yeah, well, there's a wall there now, but years ago, that was the stairway that the debutantes would gather on before they came down into the grand ballroom, which is now the dining area, to be presented. And so
Wow.
the assumption was what I was hearing was all these the nervous energy. And granted, you know, that's a stone building, so there's a lot of stuff there that's mostly kinetic. But it's like,
Yeah.
how am I hearing these people? And that's probably the next most prominent event that I really remember. And then I got led up the stairs at the hotel one time. They were calling me. Literally, I was being energetically pulled to follow someone or something up those stairs. And I kept going, and I went as far as I could. And they went into, like, I was supposed to go around, like make a 180 from the top of the stairs around. It was a closet. Here I am going up the stairs, brave as heck. And I'm like, what? And they were still pulling me. So I put my hand on the door thinking I'm either going to get in trouble for opening a door I shouldn't open or something really bizarre is going to happen. Door was locked.
No.
But I ended up
No, come on.
turning around and running like a shot back down those stairs and walked out of the hotel and stood outside waiting for my parents. I'm like, whatever that was, it wasn't cool.
Yeah, I could only imagine what's going through your head. My God.
It makes me laugh now, though. That was scary. The house I rented when I lived in Arkansas was mind-blowing. I literally thought I was losing my mind. But now that I look back at it, at 56 years old, it makes more sense. It's fun to look back at. I'm so much more open to trying to understand this. Unfortunately, that exact moment, right, is gone. But I'm much more comfortable when people show up over my shoulder now.
Good.
Oh, I
That's
love
good.
to hear that. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
Have you
I-
found yourself when you sorry, Todd, have you found yourself when you have these paranormal experiences, do you have them more with child spirits than adult spirits, or is it a combination for you?
Mm.
It's interesting that you should ask that.
I don't know why I feel compelled to ask it. I was
Good
like, I'm
question.
gonna ask her this. I don't know.
That's interesting. I think more with adults,
Mm.
it's not quite 50-50. I've had both.
Yeah.
The house that I rented in Arkansas, I had gone to see it. I was new in town, had a brand new job, private landlord, and they wanted me to have a cosigner. So my parents came to see the house, and we got to see this if we're going to co-sign for it. And as I handed the completed application to the owner, we were all standing in the kitchen, and I started bawling. And it wasn't even just the silent tears rolling down your face. It was bawling. And we attributed it to, I don't know, getting my first rental in the state, moving out because I'd been staying with them for 6 months. But I found out later that when there was an investigation in the house, that there was a lost little boy that didn't know he had transitioned, and he was looking for his family and he couldn't find his family.
So sad.
See, that gets me. That gets me right there. Yep.
When they did the investigation and they called out this little boy in the kitchen, I immediately understood what happened that day. I was picking up on this lost little boy, and I wasn't open enough to be able to communicate with this child, but someone else on the team was, of course. So they explained to me who he was and what was the problem for him.
Wow.
My goodness.
Yeah.
That's some powerful stuff you've been through. I mean,
Oh, that
I
house.
try to avoid these things. I try to keep myself as sensitive as a brick. It just kind of helps.
I've learned.
But I'm slowly busting the bricks out.
But I didn't know at that time there was a spirit in that house that I called Hagrid. You know, Harry Potter Hagrid,
Hmm.
because
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
this
yeah.
big, imposing, scary figure. And we know Hagrid was really gentle, but this dude was not that. I'd sit in one of the bedrooms working on my computer, and I knew he was behind me, staring me down. And finally, one night, I just got mad and I turned around and I yelled at him and I told him he had to get the F out of my house and he couldn't be there and blah, blah, blah. You will not intimidate me. And things lightened up. But a little bit later, I went to the kitchen to get something to drink and there was a window over the kitchen sink. I know that man was standing in that window, pouting and glaring at me because I kicked him out of his house.
Wow.
I lived in that house for almost a year.
My goodness. I mean,
Mhm.
being watched, that feeling, there's no worse feeling in the world than being watched, that.
I've
Why-
learned that
How do you
when I
get used to
Well,
that?
especially as a kid. Yeah.
Well, and by then I was in my early 30s, and I was absolutely a kid when you talk about this paranormal stuff.
Mhm.
I got run out of that house one night. I left, jumped out of bed, jumped in my car, and drove away. And as I drove past the house, I knew I lost the battle for that house. But
Mm.
I've learned, you learn to bubble up, you learn to close it down, and
I think
that's
everything's a stepping point. We're
yeah,
kind of meant to go down the paths that we're going, even if they seem like they're not supposed to be that path. It's,
Mhm.
right.
in retrospect, it's like, wow, you know what? That happened for a good reason. So,
Yeah,
I
I
like
had to
that.
learn how to control it. I had to learn it was there. I had to
Mhm.
learn to control it. And now I'm continuing to work on not only choosing to open the door, but to work with that information and relay it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot
Good
of
for you.
information to relay. And what about completing? Like, if you get some kind of sense they tell you something, do you say everything? Do you have a filter with it? Do you hold some certain things back for their protection? How does that work? I've always wondered how that works,
If it's
because I
coming through,
know you
That's a good
guys hear a
question.
lot.
yeah. If it's coming through, it's coming through for a reason. And it's usually because someone has asked me to do a mediumship reading for them. And I've intentionally opened that door and, for the highest and best for both myself and for my client. And yeah, if it's coming through, it's coming through for a reason. And we've been taught to always ask our clients, do you want to hear everything?
Okay.
Um,
It's good practice.
yeah.
Softens the blow.
And you want to present what you've been given,
Right.
and you don't want to interpret it because it doesn't mean anything to me. If I interpret it, I'm going to screw up the message, and that's not helpful to anybody. But you can soften it a little bit. But oftentimes too, if you change anything, even just a little bit, that you feel like, oh, I don't want to use that swear word, or I don't want to portray that exact personality statement. And you're running the risk of misinterpreting or misrepresenting
Right.
the spirit that's there,
Right. Yeah.
your client, and the client loses the connection that they came for.
So you're more, or do you consider yourself more of like an existential type of medium where you're getting actually from the spirit relating to the client,
Mhm.
or maybe a combination?
I think it depends on my comfort zone, to be perfectly honest.
That's
When
true.
I sit down to do a
Mm.
mediumship reading with intention, I'm good. Whoever shows up, and we're just going to roll with it and deal with that. But that's usually pretty good. But if I'm out and something catches my attention, like if my ear used to start ringing,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm much, much more cautious about allowing myself to open. I kind of have to vibe out that energy and see how my body's reacting to it before I
Right.
choose to pay much attention to what's going on around me.
That makes
That's a good
total
way to look at
sense.
it.
Yeah, I
It's
like
the
that.
best I got.
I like that. That was very well explained. What we're going to do here,
Mhm.
folks, we're going to skip off to a short break. We've got to, do some good stuff around here around the station. But when we come back, we're going to talk root cause therapy with Deidre. That's coming up. Post your questions over there as well. If you guys have any questions, you can put them in the comment section. So stay tuned. More Haunted Voices on the way. If you have a set of dowsing rods or a pendulum lying around, then learn how to use them. WLTK-DB Talk Radio is hosting a divination and clearing class Saturday, February 11th, 2023. This is an online event and seats are limited. Registration deadline is February 5th. In divination and clearing, you will work with certified psychic mediums Ellie Weisensell and Stephanie Lynn to learn and deepen divination techniques using dowsing rods and pendulums. They will also work to help teach you to use divination practices to clear and release negative energies. To register, contact the station or register online on Eventbrite. Tickets are a staggering value at only $125 each. Register now and join the class online Saturday, February 11th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. The Divination and Clearing class. Tickets on sale now. Nearing the bottom of the hour here, folks. You're listening and watching to Haunted Voices. Welcome, one and all here, of course. We're having an amazing conversation. Deidre Sanford joining us here, root cause therapist, medium, amazing individual. So if you have any questions, put them over there in the comments. If you missed the first part of the show, don't sweat it. Hi, Anne. Don't sweat it. Catch the archive over there on our Podbean, podbean.com. .haunted voices, something like that. Just search Haunted Voices Radio and you'll find us on Apple. You'll find us on Google Play, all those fun places like that as well. Now, back to the good stuff. Holy cow. What an amazing life so far. I mean, you've developed into what you are today from all these amazing experiences you had as a child, which most people would be scarred and wouldn't leave their bed. I would.
Oh, I went down the addiction road. So many of us in this world, we have to be. I know I did it and didn't realize why later, but I needed to get away from the voices in my head. I didn't know what to do with it, so I went ahead and played the addiction game for several years, which shut everything down because I wasn't paying attention to nothing. But that was a long time ago.
I feel you. Yeah, that was then. This is now. Yeah. And those things are what make us who we are today, make us stronger people. And your mind is probably a lot more clear. It's a lot more sharp. And you're good to go. You're good to go. You got this. Now,
I will say too, some of the most beautiful people that I've met, have gone through hardships, whatever that may be. And to see them grow and blossom and become the person that they are, it really truly is a beautiful thing. So it is. Yeah.
I mean, we're human beings, for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's right.
In this life and in the next, we're still human beings. Treat us all with respect. It's easier. Now, what I want to get into, and I've been chomping at the bits at this, root cause therapy. I want to know what it is, how it started. My goodness, feed us some info.
How it started is actually kind of a long story, so I will make it very short. I had a medical issue that caused me to lose my executive functioning.
Okay.
And my vestibular system was out. I couldn't find my words. I couldn't do basic math. And so there I was on long-term disability. And I ran across this ad for root cause therapy. And I thought, that's interesting, because level 2 brings in energy work, And I always felt like I needed a certification on my shingle to make it credible.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I can't do much of anything for very long before my brain shuts down again. Bite-sized classes. Hey, Greg, bite-sized classes that are 20, 30 minutes long. I can do that. And I wanted to get back on path. I got to a point where I'm like, okay, spirit took away my daily functioning and took me out of the corporate world and forced me back on path. Because if that's what you're supposed to do, they'll find a way to get you there.
Mm-hmm.
And I jumped in. And so it covers the addiction part, because we work on not why the addiction, but why the pain. What are you running from or hiding from? What cycles do you have in your life that aren't necessarily productive or good for you that you'd like to get out of? And those kinds of things. And what I learned in the practice before I got my certification was, and I learned this with energy work too, it was a different way to work with someone's energy field and have psychic information come through, or who have spirit show up for people who need assistance from spirit, from ancestors or loved ones who's crossed over in resolving with this internal struggle they're working with. So it turned out to be an amazing way to give back and to combine all of these things and make them more socially acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind.
How is it similar and different to, let's say, past life regression, EMDR, for example, hypnotherapy?
I love
How
that
does
you
it?
asked that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
are
that's just kind of how I'm curious.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And it really opens the door to explaining more about what root cause therapy is and a little bit about how it came to be. It was developed in Australia. And Melissa, who is the founder, with her partner, Ryan, hasn't hesitated to say at times in the past, it's a combination of, and I'll clean this up in a minute, NLP, EP, timeline therapy,
Okay.
and embodied processing, somatic processing, kind of the same thing. So we work in a light meditative state with our clients and work with the unconscious mind.
I like that.
If only
Right,
5% of what we do and think and say is coming from our conscious mind and the rest is all sub and unconscious, then that's where we need to work to change things. So using that light meditative state, we can go back and find out, where did this start? How do we clean that up and bring it back now? And that's why it's a light meditative state. So the timeline therapy portion of it is where we consider, is this past, is this before, during, or after birth? So past life, at time of birth, or this lifetime. I went back, I went back to a period of time where I was in a dungeon under a castle with a dirt floor.
Oh,
in
so
the
like
dank
medieval times.
and the dark. And if there was anybody else there, I couldn't see him. It was dark. And there wasn't even, in the movies, you see this shaft of light coming from a
That's
window.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't that. And because of the situation, I had lost my will to live. I didn't care if I lived anymore. I just wanted to die in the dungeon and get it over with. And what we were working with was some self-belief issues. I had one suicide attempt and some suicide ideation issues. And it's been a while, but it became clear at that point. It's like, where did this come from? Brought it with me from a past life. So if there's an event in a past life that stuck with us at a soul level, we may bring it into this lifetime and attract more similar events so that we can heal it and move forward. So no, we're not technically past life regression people. I leave that to others, but timeline therapy can bring us to past lives.
It kind of encompasses it, right? Right.
Yeah.
Does the client say anything?
Oh yeah.
Is there anything triggered? Gosh,
Sure.
there's so many things going through my head right now. This is amazing stuff.
It's it was
Because you're
scary
getting to
for
the
me.
problem.
My first session as a client, I didn't know it was going to come up. I always have my clients have water because we need to be hydrated to do the testing that we do to find the limiting belief that's holding people back. and a box
Right.
cleanup. Because you never know. And that's part of the process too, is let's drop, if it's a past event or well, it's going to be past before today, past life, current life, doesn't matter. When we travel timeline and we drop back down into the event and look at the event again through our own eyes, those are some of the questions we asked. Who's with you? What's happening around you? What emotions are coming up for you? Where are they in your body? And that's where my energy worker stuff comes in too. We name the emotion. We figure out where that emotion is in that moment on a scale. And then we have a volume button and we turn it up. Let's take that volume. If trauma is nothing but an unprocessed emotion or an incomplete emotional cycle, your body's stuck. So in order to unstick, we're going to deal with that emotion and bring it up as high as we can in your body and hold it until it comes down on its own. I can help with that. Some of my clients just want to run their own volume control button on that, and that's perfectly fine. And that's one of the things I love about root cause therapy is my clients are always the ones in control of the session. I'll lead the meditation. I'll help them get to that state, but they're working with their unconscious mind or subconscious mind to find out when is the first event. And let's go check it out. Let's drop down in there and see what's going on. And as we come back up the timeline, we can see other events that are affiliated, and they usually just flash by.
Mm-hmm.
But if anything calls out, then let's drop back down and clean up whatever needs to be cleaned up.
Wow.
This gives whole new meaning to let go, let God.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
this is extremely interesting on how you're helping them, but yet they're helping themselves.
Absolutely. They're helping themselves. I'm just facilitating the process.
Yeah. And that's what's blowing my mind. They're helping themselves. You connect them subconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
And wow.
They find their own truth in the situation. Once the emotional reaction to the event or the emotion of the event is brought up, dropped down, and we do that with all of the emotions, then they have the opportunity to tell me, okay, now that the emotion's gone, what's the truth of the situation? What can you learn? What else can you see? And they usually come up with 3 or 4 different things that are reframing that event for them. And they bring that knowledge back up. And that's why we use light meditative, so that you're conscious of the learnings and you bring them back up. And that's also where the energy comes in. Yeah.
What are some like hallmark signs of people actually benefiting from this that you can tell? So maybe they've, gone through it for a few months and you really can see these signs like, wow, this is really working for this person.
I'll start with my personal experience. I'm here. I am on the radio station. I have my show. I have my website. I am actually telling people, hi, I'm a psychic medium. Hi, I'm an energy worker. I regained a lot of my self-worth, my value, my self-confidence. We all have histories, and I had very little of that for quite a while. So going back and visiting some of those events, they've been worked through in Western psychology, but now we're dealing with them differently. I had a client in China who had some very difficult relationships with family members. And in one of our sessions, she had a very tug of war type relationship with her mother. And in one of the sessions, what we ended up working on was financial issues. And she learned that she often chose emotional spending as a way to soothe her emotional concerns or unhappy emotions.
Oops.
And she'd get all excited and she'd get this new stuff. And then 2 or 3 days later, she's like, who cares? And now I feel like crap again because I spent money that I don't really have to buy these material things. And they weren't always for her. They were for other people in the family. So she ended up breaking that cycle for herself, and she could stay in a better relationship with herself more, on a longer term basis, because she was no longer getting upset with herself over her emotional spending and no longer soothing her emotions through spending.
Wow.
Those are the kinds of things.
Those are incredible things. I mean, there's my mind's going 1,000 miles an hour.
I know, right?
I know. So is mine. I have all these questions.
Because you have everybody today is popping Xanaxes or whatever
Yeah.
to kill the
Mhm.
problem, drinking, using whatever to kill that problem. That problem is just going to resurface, and usually it's even worse. But
Well,
this
because
is
you run,
something that
well,
just
it's like any other emotion, right? You tamp it down, you tamp it down, you tamp it down, and then all of a
yes,
sudden, boom, the kettle blows.
you
And
explode. You
yeah,
just
it's kind of
explode.
it.
Right.
Now, if anybody has any questions, post them over there in the comment section. We'll take some questions here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, there
But
are a couple. I have one too.
Yeah.
Oh, were you done? I'm sorry, Tom. Were you done?
no, yeah, go right
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Gosh, I'm like interrupting you guys tonight. Jeez. Is there ever a situation where when you would not recommend this on someone? And if so, why? I mean, does it, is it certain type of trauma? Is it maybe a physical condition or, other types of
I love it.
psychotherapy?
I love it. I love it. You just tied together a whole bunch of things, which is awesome. Thanks, Nicole.
That's Nicole.
No, it's perfect.
There I go again, I guess. Oh
No,
my God.
I love it. So, yeah, we're going to bring up things. People are going to bump into events in the past that really aren't necessarily feeling safe. My domestic
Yeah.
abuse cycle, that was a tough one to look at. I worked at it in Western psychotherapy, sure. But to go back and re-experience that event could potentially really kind of re-traumatize me. So clients can bring themselves out of this if they choose to do so. And they also always have the option of creating a safety button. So we go in and my client goes in, I join them on their journey to find a really joyous moment, something that really filled them with joy and something super happy, and bring that emotion as far to the front as we can. And we program that into the last person I worked with. I think we programmed their knuckle of their thumb. And it's like setting the intention in a certain place.
Right.
It's like Underdog's ring, right? It's got his energy in it, talisman, amulet. So that if they're uncomfortable, we can create it for safety as well. If they're uncomfortable in the situation and they're not sure they're ready to jump out of it, but they just need a little something, they can hit that button and bring themselves closer to homeostasis, but not
That's nice
necessarily
to
leave
know.
the event.
Because
Yeah.
I was curious about that. I
Yeah.
was curious about what if something happened? Is there a way out?
Right.
So
Well,
that
and let's consider too that our unconscious mind is also one of our gatekeepers and one of our protectors, which is why
Mhm.
we often don't remember traumatic experiences. It's too painful, it's too hurtful, it's too scary, it's too whatever. And our unconscious mind typically doesn't let us look at things unless it knows that we're ready to handle it. I had some
See that?
experiences that I didn't remember for years. Car accidents is a perfect example. We all have short circuits when things happen. And trauma doesn't have to be beatings. It doesn't have to be car accidents. It can be something someone said to you in a tone of voice that really you took to heart.
Yeah, that's
Hope
well
that answers your
said.
question.
holy
Yeah, no,
cow.
yeah, it does for sure.
The client is always driving the session, whether they're conscious of it or not. They're always driving it. So we may find a limiting belief you want to go work on, and I'll say, hey, is there anything that you think you might not really want to look at or cope well with during our time together, and offer the safety button option.
And you said something too that struck me, and that was, when they're ready for it. So when someone's ready to change, this type of therapy is obviously going to be more effective, I would think, right? So,
Well, yeah. I mean, how many times have I tried to quit smoking? Well, what's the real reason I'm smoking? Because it's not going to end till I figure that out. The center in Melbourne where they used to see clients on a regular basis did a lot of addiction and mental health work. And there's some
Wow.
safeties to put in place in that. And we don't require that our client be clean and sober. That's going to happen as a natural extension of removing that pain point.
That's true.
Wow.
For me, it's biting my
tiny mind
nails.
is blown.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
This
great.
is this is good stuff. This is just good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take some questions here. We got let's see here. Did we answer this one here?
Perfect. Yeah.
I think I
Nice.
accidentally
Pulled that one
flashed
up.
it earlier, but yeah, we haven't.
Oh,
answered.
you're
Yeah.
up there, Nicole.
I popped it up there earlier because I saw it.
Oh,
My
did you?
energy
Did I? I
work-
was like, did I do that?
my energy work does come in handy in this, in that I can help if a client is stuck on the way back down from an emotion at like a level 7 and we're still working toward getting to 1, I can use my energy work to help clear some of that debris from their field so that they're freer and more easy. It's easier for them to come back down the scale with the emotion. They're doing the conscious work themselves. So I don't really focus on working on any specific chakra in this work, but the energy work comes to play. Hope that helps.
Well done.
Makes sense.
There's some great comments down there too. Norma put
Yeah, I'm
one up
reading 'em.
here. In death
Oh, yeah.
transition, the ego leaves,
Mhm.
which is the mode of expressing anger and other emotions on earth. How do you explain the spirits expressing themselves through emotion, possibly tulpas?
Ooh.
That's a good question. Leave it to my mom. Hi, Mom.
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah, she
so
comes
many
up with
facets
them.
to all of this, and
Yeah.
and it's all intertwined too.
Yeah.
It's returning to spirit, returning to that space of unconditional love. And there's always
Yeah.
a lot more to learn. There's certainly more for me to learn in that respect. But, it's like I used to think there was a waiting room, right? There's a waiting room in a transition period that you have to go through when you cross over, and a process before you can come back and haunt anyone, so to speak. No. After my mom passed away, within a couple of hours, I finally went down to the basement to get some solitude and process my own stuff. And I got down to that bottom step, and there she was sitting on the sofa smoking her cigarette in her favorite robe. She's like, took you long enough to get down here. She said it in a joking way. And I just painted a picture of a person my mother was not. She was much more prim and proper, but
Oh
she's
my
not Peg
gosh.
Bundy. Not that there's anything
I
wrong with
love
Peg.
it.
I love her. But she had on her favorite red house dress, having her cigarette.
That's awesome.
I think
I love it.
there's a process that they certainly go through, I think. But, it's like a life review from what I hear. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Soul evolution, all of that.
Yeah.
It's, so
All
fascinating.
intertwined. I mean,
Mhm.
this has been amazing. Now, if anybody's interested in this, getting a session with you, perhaps getting some more information, how can they be in touch with you, Deidre?
Oh, my website, which is my name.
DeidreLSanford.com.
You got it. DeidreLSanford.com.
That's a beautiful site.
Thanks. There's also a 30-minute free consultation on there, or up to 30
Ooh.
minutes. Is it right for me?
Nice.
Yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
sure there's going to be a lot of questions.
Be open to it, because there's psychic information. The psychic comes through. We'll be talking about stuff not in the actual work, but as we're doing the sway testing, etc. There's always stuff that comes up.
Speaking of coming up, you've got a show coming up Wednesday morning, 10 a.m.
Oh, Amara Hanek.
Self-care show. Know yours.
Yeah,
You got who you got coming up next week?
Amara Hanek.
All right.
She's a trainer for the Monroe Institute, and she's a shaman trainer. She does all kinds of stuff, and we're talking about meditation manifestation.
Nice.
Yeah, she's got a couple books out there. She's an amazing artist.
I'm into manifestation, the law of attraction, all that fun stuff. It's kind of fun. It's a side gig.
Yeah.
No, but thank you so much, Deidre, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on here. It was amazing having you on the show. A lot of fun. We're going to have you back.
Oh, well, thanks for the
Yeah, I think
opportunity, Nicole. It was so nice to finally meet you.
I know, right? Face to face. This was awesome. It's always fun to end the work week on Haunted Voices Radio.
It is. It's a TGIF.
Yeah.
And
No,
on
this
that
was
note,
great.
we're going to take our final break here, folks. We come back. We're going to wrap things up. Stay tuned. More Haunted Voices on the way. Bye, Deidre.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Want to see your video here? Sponsor WLTK-DB Talk Radio and watch us make that happen. With your paid sponsorship of $80, you receive a professional produced audio, video, and banner placement on our station. Not only does your sponsorship air during our live shows, but also replayed on our podcast and heard by hundreds of like-minded people. Visit WLTK-DB.com to get started and find out just how hard we work to get you noticed.
Minutes past the hour. Welcome back, folks. You're tuned into Haunted Voices Live right here on WLTK-DB.com. Check out the website. Check out the new shows over there. Check out the current schedule. Definitely want to thank Deidre once again for coming on here. That was awesome, Nicole.
Oh, that was fabulous. I was thinking, you took the words out of my mouth. We need to have her on again and do a part 2 because there's so many more avenues to take with that.
We barely scratched the surface.
I know, right?
my mind wouldn't stop spinning.
I know. Mine too.
Just a lot of great info.
Yeah.
Just a few things coming up here. We've got some, and Nicole, you'd be so proud of me. I only double booked once.
It happens. I've done it before. We're human. It's all good. Okay.
But we have got, it's been fun. It's been fun. We've got an author next week, author researcher Mike Ricksecker coming on here on the 27th. And on February 3rd, we're going to be talking aliens with Ryan Stacy. He's coming up. Jacob Rice and Mike Morin of Ghostly Activities are coming on February 10th. We've got paranormal investigator and host Eric Freeman coming on February 17th, talking some ghost and good stuff. And then author, medium Vanessa Hogel is going to be joining us February 24th.
Great.
And there's all kinds of great guests coming up here, folks. I also want to say, put out a shameless plug here. I just got a shipment in of books. Anybody wants a signed copy, you can go to my website, toddmichaelbates.com. You can get a signed copy through there, or of course you can order Amazon, all those other fun places. But my goodness, Nicole, the week is over.
It is. Now we have 2 days of relaxation.
Right? We can put the station to rest, put it on archive mode. You guys catch all the latest shows. Go to the website, click the play button, and all the past shows, well, you can just sit there and listen all day long, or you can just go find them right there on the website. The website has a lot of cool stuff if you take some time to check it out. So head on over there to WLTK-DB.com. Download the mobile app too. Be sure and get that on your phone. A lot of people listen to past shows and stuff on there. But any final words of wisdom, Nicole?
I think this was a fantastic show, and I'm just gonna say what I did earlier. I mean, we all go through things. We all have some sort of trauma that we've dealt with in our life, and it's just how you move through it and how you grow and blossom. And some of the most beautiful people that I've met have had that, and they've turned out to be amazing people. So,
well said.
Stop judging yourself, people. That's what I say. So.
Yeah. Don't be afraid of it. Let it shine.
That's right.
Just be yourself. Be
exactly.
yourself. It's a choice, folks. It really is. It's a choice.
It is.
And on that, we'll see you next week with guest Mike Ricksecker. Be sure to mark your calendars for that. And from all of us here at WLTK-DB and Haunted Voices Radio. Hey, Meg. She made it the tail end, but she made it.
I think she was there at the beginning too. I think. Yeah.
All right, you folks. Have a great weekend. Have a great night. Bye-bye now.
Good night, guys.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.